My fellow Ambazonians, this is Dr. Cho Ayaba. Happy weekend to all of our brave people across the globe in jail and on ground zero. I want to, on behalf of our people, thank our forces in FACO, the joint forces of the different groups that have made a huge impact against the organization of AFCON in our land. I really think it's utmost bravery in the 21st century for men of their caliber to be able to fight in our capital 5 years into a war of liberation. We should not judge ourselves too harshly. We should not set objectives that are unattainable. Why do countries host big tournaments? That must be the starting point in developing a counter strategy. Countries sometimes host these tournaments for the purpose of prestige. They host these tournaments to showcase their countries for direct foreign investment, to generate massive pre-tournament, during tournament, and post-tournament investments, and to create massive opportunities during the tournament in terms of jobs, contracts with media, and sometimes, like we found in the in the dirty war in Argentina, just a matter of survival. There are very little financial benefit in countries hosting these tournaments because we have seen in certain countries where massive infrastructural developments have been abandoned after such tournaments. So once we understand the objective of the host country, we will be able to develop counter strategies. In looking at the last 100 years, we were unable to find where liberation fighters were able to stop completely the hosting of tournaments within occupied territories, especially when they occur in the strongholds of the regime, which is mostly the capital, the last battleground in every liberation struggle. We looked at the Argentinian situation where there was massive human rights violations. Amnesty International campaigned for boycott. Different groups, the French Football Federation and different international organizations campaigned for boycott. That didn't work because former US Secretary of State, Dr. Henry Kissinger, was very much for the tournament because Argentinian regime was doing its dirty job. Argentina ended up winning the cup, boasting the regime. But that's a different case. We look at the case, I think, of 2010 in Angola, where the Cabinda Liberation, the FLEC Liberation Front, undertook certain operations. It had an impact, both positive and negative, on the FLEC, but it could not stop the cup. I'm not trying to say it's impossible across time and space, but in leadership, you define your objective in such a way that you can measure success. There is a generic feeling in Ambazonians that in our war of liberation, we are bound to win all battles. And sometimes events occur not as a barometer whether we are succeeding or failing, but it presents to us an opportunity to rally, to impact, to showcase. For example, we have totally undermined Cameroon's PR purposes. We've destroyed it completely. You know, the henchman in it to the collapsing The stadia across within Ambazonia totally empty. What better PR disaster can you have when players which should be greeted by massive population are surrounded by mercenaries? Amen. What better PR? That totally destroys Cameroon's ability to showcase its country as a peaceful country. It totally destroys Cameroon's ability to showcase its country as an investment hub. It totally destroys its international reputation. We made that happen. And we should always sometimes give ourselves a pat on the back rather than condemning ourselves, trying to find scapegoats, trying to quarrel over nothing. And these things happen because we refuse to listen to leadership. Everybody is concocting strategies. Everybody is taking opinions and floating them all over. People want to test other people's ability by saying, oh, we have $2,000 here. You have to stop the car. Give us precedents. We work on precedents. We work on our ability. There are battles I wouldn't fight. There are battles I will accept, losing. But I wouldn't lose the war. There are battles when you fight, you lose those battles, you lose the war. So pick your battles carefully. Set your objectives in a way that are achievable. Stop being all over the place. Not everyone can be at the forefront all the time. You must not talk all the time. You must not have an opinion on every issue. What is your area of experience? Sometimes if you have an opinion, can you channel it in a way that does not really intoxicate the social media space? Find a leader who listens to you. Channel that opinion and be part of its construction, be part of its implementation, its measurement, its assessment. We have defeated these people. We are unsure. The reason why most of you are unsure is because you don't know what victory is. You don't know how to measure victory. You measure victory in an abstract because for you the concept of independence is also abstract. And so you have it in your hands. You don't know what to do with it. And so I ask all of you to appreciate yourself. And I appreciate the brave men and women who've given us pride. My people, if I tell you the work being done, you'll be amazed. Sometimes I read, I listen to you people, and I ask myself, what if you had us on salary? What if you really had us on salary, that you pay taxes constantly, and this leadership is on salary, that we live on that salary? You would have destroyed the war effort. You would have destroyed it because your level of arrogance, your level of disenchantment would have made our people to give up. I ask you to slow down. Believe in the leadership you have. It may not be perfect, but I think if we've come thus far in 5 years, if we've been able to shatter the myth around the invincibility of the enemy, you should have confidence in it. It's stable, it's predictable. It offers respect and foresight and a vision. You may not like the actors, but if you really believe in independence, you would show some respect to this leadership. So with respect to AFCON, there is no better achievement any people can achieve than the PR disaster and humiliation is brought to bear on our enemy. And the brave men and women will continue to punish, humiliate, and make them despondent. Take pride in that achievement and mobilize, continuously invest in your own liberation if you want to own the outcome. there is a lot of disenchantment out there. I see what is going on in the IG. I made a statement a few weeks ago. I got a big pushback from a section of the Ambazonian Governing Council and the IGK. I received scathing attacks from inside the Hague of C and from the IGK. There is an assumption within the Hague of C that I have always been rescuing the IG on their way down, and that maybe just being a bystander will see them collapse. There is another assumption in the IGK that each time these infiltrators are collapsing, I get around. Some said I can't call the IG to reconcile if I cannot reconcile with Dr. Okwanga. Now let me say the following. In the past 5 years, these assumptions have not yielded any positive outcome. The IG has not collapsed. It has not disappeared. If anything, it has sometimes morphed into a more dangerous beast, which we will have to deal with. The assumption from within the Hague of C that I always go to rescue these people is not also correct. It's not correct. I have said from the beginning, we will win as a people. Has the IG made a positive contribution? Somehow it has made some positive contribution. But generally it has been a very negative organization as far as struggle is concerned. And sometimes when there is an explosion or an implosion, you might want to control it before it has negative consequences on surrounding buildings. And my attitude is that we cannot continuously remain bystanders in what is happening in the IG. As I said in one of my audios, after Siseko asserted independence in 2007, there was massive attack on our people. I thought that was an opportunity for us to come together. And I made a call to him. After he was silent for over 2 weeks, I made a call to him. I said, sometimes tragedies provide opportunities for all, not for some to declare victory or to declare the demise of others, but to see tragedy sometimes as an opportunity for sensible people to make progress. When Siseko was also kidnapped, that provided an opportunity for us. But we were bystanders. We were bystanders. What did we get? We get another very dangerous brand of the IG. Took over, banned groups, attacked integrity, caused the death of so many of our fighters. Continuous disruption, tarnishing the image of our struggle. What is supposed to be a crisis within a group is projected as a crisis of the Ambazonian liberation struggle. Our international partners are seeing us as unserious, not being able to resolve little issues. And I've always said, maybe being a bystander is okay, but maybe we should choose another path and see the current crisis as an opportunity for all of us to come back and reset. It doesn't stop the different groups from pursuing the strategy. After all, this is a war. You can stop fighting, stop defending, stop prosecuting the war, and decide to find a way to make sure that we can work together. You can't. It is a war. Under my leadership, we will continue to prosecute this war. But I also think it's sensible leadership that when we have situations that have negative impact on our struggle, that same leadership is able to look at it critically and take steps to mitigate the effect of such crisis. There are a lot of things going on, and I hope that they will transform into something positive that will make all of us begin to think seriously about the consequences of our actions. Some of you have been running away from positive, assertive leadership because in your mind, you are looking at benefits. You're looking at individual benefit. You're still in the mindset of a Cameroonian who thinks you need particular persons to be in particular positions because that give you opportunities. Far from it. What we seek is an Ambazonia that provides opportunity for everyone, irrespective of who you know, that you can have access to services even when you know nobody. At the beginning, La République tried to project leadership from ground zero, trying to turn fighters into leaders. Created the DDR where he took some fighters and tried to put them inside to make them pseudo leaders. In the 90s, when we fought against La République, when the SCNC and SCAPO took the case to the African Court of Human Rights, La République chose its own leaders and flew them there as leaders of the SCNC. All the time, it has been the strategy of the enemy to choose leaders that they can accommodate. It has been a strategy of occupiers across time and space. La République failed in its effort to divide the struggle between diaspora and ground zero. We are one people. We have also seen that tendency. People shouting, diaspora should, ground zero should take over. Do you think the commander sitting there in Bamenda really knows anything about AFCON? Do you think a commander sitting there defending a block in Manfi really cares if the Prime Minister of La République is coming into Mezam? The reason why you see Ambazonians are trying desperately to reject the leadership they have, but to choose one or to aspire for one they don't have, is because they always need leaders who are politically and financially corrupt. They need the kind of political leaders who are like to whom they function like lobbyists. They have been pushing this agenda to divide the leadership with ground zero. They don't understand the consequences. They don't understand the consequences. Remember, the day it happens, your struggle is over. The day it happens, your struggle is over. I have said there are different types of liberation struggles. And the role of those in exile is determined by the nature of the leadership and the location of that leadership. In Sri Lanka, the Tamil leadership was on the ground, the ideological leadership. And do not confuse leadership. Do not conflate position leadership and leadership. Do not conflate that because you have a position, then you are a leader in a liberation struggle. The Tamil leadership was on the ground. The role of the diaspora was more supportive. In Eritrea, first the Eritrean leadership was abroad, mostly in Egypt. They moved in. The role of the diaspora was supportive. In the Ambazonian situation, leadership is in exile. The role of diaspora is both exile politics, which is captured in terms of mobilization, internationalization, and supportive politics, which is captured in the generation of resources to support resistance on the ground. Once a safe space is created to harbor the ideological and directional leadership, the leadership will move from the diaspora into the homeland. And the role of the diaspora will change to that of supportive. It may still be engaged in exile activities, but the ground will then dominate. Until then, we must stop this experimentation. 5 years into this war, we must have clarity in terms of where we are, the plans that we must develop. We are always far ahead. Leadership provides direction. Leadership provides predictability and stability. It provides a strategy that is systematic, that begins somewhere and takes root in other places. Leadership decides at one moment that we need to change from den guns to assault rifle. We need to move in heavy machine gun. It starts from a barrack. Before you open your eyes, most barracks change. Leadership thinks it's time to have motorized vehicles to move forces, to project power, to project control. First, you listen to critiques, you listen to blackmail and sabotage. Then it begins to roll out into different areas. That is how you project power. That is how you project certainty. That's the role of leadership. Being bold, not being afraid to be controversial. Being directional without being scared. My fellow Ambazonians, as I wrote at the beginning of this year, we should be able to move into transition if we put our acts together. Because we have sufficiently dismantled the ability of the enemy to reinstate the conditions under which political occupation is possible. We have sufficiently undermined the ability of the enemy to make money out of this occupation. Their presence now is only military occupation. And we are punishing them. We are vaporizing them. We are assaulting them. They are less than 10,000 La Republic forces on the ground. If we put our acts together, we will drive these people to the gates of hell in the shortest time possible. And we will win together. We must have built a legacy that far surpasses any position we may hold post-independence. And I call on all of you to think positive, to be a visionary, to be a bridge builder, and to stop taking pride in the demise of others. Sometimes look at things from a different perspective. Sometimes look at crisis as an opportunity. Reach out. Change the tone of your language. Be positive in your outreach. Project your country. 2022 is a year of hope for our people. If there is anything we have achieved in January of this year, has been to humiliate Cameroon internationally, to project Ambazonian certainty. We must begin to create the circumstances under which political legitimacy can be transferred to Ambazonia. God bless you all.